Welcome to With Love, The Chambers.
Where life, laughter, and lasting lessons meet.
We're The Chambers, a husband and wife navigating faith, family, and everything in between.
Here we share real stories, heartfelt conversations, and a whole lot of love. Because life isn't perfect, but God's grace sure is.
So pull up a seat, grab a cup of coffee, or go ahead and sip that tea, and join us for honest talks, laughs, and the wisdom we're learning along the way. This is With Love, The Chambers. Welcome to another With Love Wednesday. I am Jamila Chambers, and I'm here with my very handsome husband, the vision engineer himself, Rufus Chambers, and we are so excited to bring to you another episode this week. Before we get into today's topic, what shout outs do you have for the viewers, the listeners? We've got some great feedback. We've got some great comments. I always want to give them a shout out.
Thank y'all for tuning in today. Really appreciative of all the support that you've given us.
Yes.
Want to say thank you to all those, especially that responded to the survey that we published on our social media platforms. We thank you to everybody that responded, and we're going to take those responses to heart so that we can continue to create and curate conversations that are beneficial to you. Also want to thank all of our new subscribers. We've been seeing our subscription numbers go up on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, and on Spotify. So just want to say thank you. And we do enlist your help to help us get the word out. I was giving you the testimony. I was in a business meeting yesterday, and for the most part, I always keep, kind of what we do in our personal lives outside of construction trailers and outside of business meetings. But I went into the trailer, and one of the guys there was like, "Hey man, I saw you have a podcast. I had no idea." So that
kind of came up as a suggestion for him on his Apple podcast.
Yeah. So that was great to see that the word is getting out.
I love that.
So thank you to helping us get the word out, and definitely major kudos to our social media brand manager.
Come on, let's shout
She
out.
is amazing. Raven, thank you for helping us build this vertical and build this platform.
I love it. And it takes a team.
It does.
It takes a whole entire village. So I love that. But let's get into today's topic.
It.
Sometimes things are on Front Street.
Okay.
And your relationship, yes.
You have to explain. Some of our listeners may be a little culturally naive to the term Front Street. So maybe you need to.
And especially when we're from the 1900s.
That's
on top of that.
What is
using that up front and center. Yes, there we go.
Up front and center.
Sometimes our relationship issues, who we're dating, who we're seeing, the decisions that we make in our relationship sometimes become front and center. And you see Nelly and Ashanti spinning the block. You see Megan Good hooked up with Jonathan Majors after some controversy.
Yeah.
And
I guess she didn't hear the Cat Williams podcast, but that's another conversation. I guess she didn't watch.
Now, you know what?
Didn't watch that episode of Cat Williams on Club Shay Shay.
You better leave Shay Shay and Cat alone. Before Cat got something to say about us, because one thing that brother Cat did, he broke it all the way down.
He did.
But sometimes things are front and center in your relationships, and sometimes you make decisions in your relationships that are popular. Sometimes you make decisions that are unpopular, and everybody has an opinion. Whether your relationship is public, like some of the people that we mentioned, and we can get into our political figures that have public relationships and all these sorts of things within a ministry context, like all of those things become very front and center. Or whether it's just your family that got something to say.
Oh, families have opinions. Oh, okay. We haven't had any experience.
We haven't had none of those. We haven't had none of those things.
We've only heard such things, but not
we've only heard about
them.
Such things. We've never experienced such things. But even if there are family members that have really, really strong, opinions and things to say, we're going to talk about navigating through that
Okay.
and navigating through those moments where your private relationship issues, struggles,
Yeah.
challenges
Yeah.
kind of get put on
Yes.
Front
On
Street
Front
or
Street.
front and center. And so, starting off that conversation and kind of beginning to have that conversation, what kind of foundational, knowing that those things are going to happen, and I think that maybe is the first tool or tip, knowing that even within your private relationship, your marriage, your long term relationship, knowing that people are just going to have something to say and they're just going to have opinions. What are some foundational things that couples should consider, have in place, be able to have as foundational bricks, so to speak, to withstand those storms? Where
Oh,
should
wow.
where should we start
Oh boy,
privately before we get on Front
that's a
Street?
tough one. That's a tough one. As you were, doing the opening context, I was thinking about, and I think we've referenced this statement in an earlier podcast, and Ari Vernon, the pastor of the Word Church in Cleveland, Ohio, with multiple campuses, he made a statement, I believe, I hope he did, but a statement about you can't have a mega church with a storefront marriage.
That was
And
Ari Vernon.
that was Ari
Yes.
Vernon. And when he said it, I thought about, wow, the relationship has to do the private work to be able to sustain the public spotlight. And I think it starts with a foundation. We are followers of Christ, and the parable of the person that built on sand versus rock is appropriate to this conversation. How you build your relationship, what foundation you build it on is going to indicate how you can withstand a storm. And we understand the storm could be sickness, it could be financial ruin, it could be a child going through, hardship, or it can be success. That's the other thing is, when you talk about a storm, it could just be unexpected success or overwhelming success where your relationship or your marriage has to withstand media. It has to withstand money. It has to withstand journalism and et cetera. So I think the foundation, it needs to be trust. It needs to be communication. It needs to be agreement. It needs to be alignment, because as you have those things in the foundation, when you present your relationship publicly, you and your significant other already have a working knowledge, a working understanding, a mutual agreement on what it is, versus going out into the public and trying to figure it out, or going out into the public and you're interfacing with people that may be forming an opinion on your relationship, and you may be influenced by an opinion that may not be based on reality. So there's something to be said about doing that private work before going public, or before blowing up, if you can control it. You know
Yes.
what I mean? There's something to be said about that. But I think, again, that parable of building on the rock and the sand is a good place to start.
And there's that tension with that too, because you and I have talked in previous episodes about, especially in those early courtship days, not being so isolating in your relationships, because sometimes you need that village
Yeah.
to hold you accountable, to be able to see some things in that person you're considering that maybe you can't see. Sometimes when you are newer in a relationship, especially, your eyes are all glossy and
Yeah.
everything is
Yeah.
everything. And he's so wonderful and she's so this and she's so that. But sometimes you need other people to kind of give you that framework. So there's place for that, and there's room for that. But then how do we again set those boundaries when sometimes that early access or that early way in which other people are able to give you feedback spills over into, territory that, should be held a little close to the vest. So it's a little difficult tightrope to navigate, especially newer,
That's true. That is true.
into the relationship where you're trying to build that foundation. And I'm trying to think back to those times where we were newer, in our relationship and had those influences because we were so different. Like right now, right now, after all of these years we've spent together, a lot of our personality has converged.
That's true.
So where I used to be I won't say a little bit, a whole lot of extra like guacamole, all over the place, glitter belts, everything loud, right?
You still like glitter belts.
I still like glitter belts. One thing about me.
It used to be.
One thing about me.
You describe yourself now, but go ahead.
Yes, I'm totally describing myself
but it's
now.
A different lot of, maybe that's what you're saying.
Yes. So I use the glitter belt example as a illustration of the personality.
Yeah.
But really, really big personality. And you were a lot more reserved than even you are now, if that is even a thing.
Yeah.
But our personalities have converged so much. But because we were so different early on, it was almost like that opposite attract sort of thing. And I remember, people saying,
oh, yeah.
I don't see this,
That's a good point.
again, people see it now, but earlier on, we were so different. It was like, I'm not sure that I see it, or I'm not sure that I see it with y'all together. And people were vocal, about that. But there was something that we saw.
That's true.
Kind of even outside of that, that we were building upon and holding on to. And so kind of starting with buckets of people that you can be on Front Street with and buckets of people that might have just opinions about your relationship. Let's start as close to home as we can, which is our family and our close friends and loved ones that have that early access to us. How do we navigate when might not even be nothing big. I just don't see it. Like, I don't know. Y'all are so different, or we come from two different places and have two different backgrounds, socioeconomic conversations. Like that person's from that other side of the tracks, or that person's from up on the hill, or whatever those things are. How do we navigate through the tension of just, I don't see it?
Yeah, that's a tough question for a couple of reasons. I think number one, it depends on the stage of your own maturation process. If you have a child that's, 20 or 22, they definitely need wise counsel.
Young adult.
Young adult. We need wise counsel at our age, right?
Correct.
But I think the level of wise counsel that a person needs based on where they're at is different.
Yes.
So we're not suggesting that people don't need wise counsel. But at the same time, somebody on the outside can't get inside of your relationship and experience the relationship on your behalf. They're going to see people through a limited, point of view. And they have to acknowledge that. So I think it's important to surround yourself with wise counsel. And this is another thing that we've learned along the way. The people that you have in your life as wise counsel, when you engage them, you need to also acknowledge where they're at in their life. What filter are they speaking to you from? Are they speaking to you from a lens of jealousy, or are they speaking to you from a lens of love and support? Or maybe both, right?
Sure.
And that's something that people need to understand. Who really has your best interest? When people have proven that they have your best interest, you should listen to them not so that they can make a decision for you, but so that they can support you in making the best decision for yourself, and I feel like there's an art to that. But sometimes the pre-existing conditions of a relationship that you have with a person that may be that wise counsel, they'll play themselves out, in this counsel, be it an older sibling, be it a younger sibling, be it a parent, be it a mentor, being it a pastor. Those people are not going to put down the relationship hierarchy that pre-exists and give you counsel on who you desire to be with. They bring that in. You know what I mean? And people need to acknowledge that, because, let's just talk practically now. If you've been giving a person something in that relationship, and I'm talking about the person that's going to give you counsel on your relationship, and they stand to lose that because of this new relationship, guess what? You need to acknowledge that. They may not say it, but you need to acknowledge it, and that may influence how they counsel you on the relationship.
And I think that's interesting, because I think men, I'm hearing you say this, and I think men might feel that a little bit more, and I'm making general statements.
Okay.
But I'm thinking about you in particular, and then you being the male in the home and being in a home with women and being in that dynamic in particular. And I don't have sons. I get it now. I don't think I got it when we were kids, but I was like, oh my goodness. One thing about sons in particular is that sons kind of go off and
That's
go
true.
with that other family, right? Sons, I think the saying is,
There's something to that.
yeah, there is something to that. The saying is, when you have daughters, you gain a son, and when you have sons, you lose, your son. And there's something to that. And there's something to that tension and to that pressure of just how you kind of talk about relationships and through the lens of relationship when you are in that dynamic. And I think it's also important too, and you were touching base upon it, and I'm talking about from the women perspective, who we take counsel from. People are always going to give us their feedback through their lens, through their purview, through their experiences, right, wrong, or indifferent. Even if it's well-meaning, they're just going to give us that feedback through the lens of their experience. And so if you are taking advice from that girlfriend who's never been with nobody themselves, or has never seen a successful relationship, whatever that means, we all define that differently, but has never seen it, never experienced it, they're giving that feedback, but they're giving it through the lens of their lived experience. And so I think too, and we've talked about this with who we identify as mentors and who can speak into our lives, it's always just, again, to be careful and really be able to acknowledge that we want to take advice from people we want to trade places with. And sometimes someone that can give us advice and counsel in one area might not be the same person to give us advice and counsel in another area. So my financial coach, for example, might not be my best relationship coach, so to speak.
Absolutely.
So I think you touched on that, and that's impactful in a lot of different ways.
No, I mean, the gender, thing is real,
It's real,
or not even just the gender thing, but the familial context.
Yes.
What I mean? Because it could go the other way as well. A young lady may be, play a certain role
within that family,
within a family.
Absolutely.
And now that family may have to begin to barter with that person's time.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And another thing that while you were talking and making, the profound statement that you were making, I'm also thinking about, we've been talking about how we've seen, I don't know, maybe three weddings within the last few years use this particular song.
A particular
song by UGK.
Yes.
Featuring Outkast, where the groom is reciting these verses, by Andre 3000. For those of you who don't know, it's a very popular song. I think this is the biggest song that UGK ever had.
Got it.
And the verse is basically a man about to get married, and he's having a conversation with the men in his life about getting married.
Yes.
And some of the men are saying, don't do it.
Right.
Keep your heart and all this other thing. And, the primary character. And if we had time, we could unpack the brilliance of the pen of Andre 3000.
That's a whole episode in itself.
Yes. his bars were so visual, and they told such a story.
Yes.
Overlaid with the other verses that came, but that's not the point. But it gave an illustration of this transition, from single man to committed man, and who stands to lose, in
that transition,
in that transaction, but I think it goes both ways for men and women. But that's part of the transformation that needs to happen for a relationship to be able to sustain, sustain the public eye and the private battles and victories, behind closed doors. And I think what I get concerned about in today's context is people have perfected branding. People have perfected public persona,
talk about
but they have not perfected the private work. Where we have celebrities like, Jonathan Majors and Megan Good, Jonathan Majors' separation with this other woman, it played itself out in the public eye, and then he's on court because whatever happened with this ex-woman. And Megan Good and Devon Franklin, same thing, their relationship, their courtship, their marriage. They wrote a book, and now their divorce is all playing us out in the public eye. And now they've both moved on to new relationships, but they've done so all in the public eye.
Which is very difficult.
And maintaining a public image and persona is a lot of work. My heartfelt prayer and hope is that the private work has been done in addition to this manicured public persona. And I think us as mere mortals or mere regular people, I think sometimes we stargaze at these personas and think the relationships that we need to manage and maintain is more about the brand versus the private work. Can you talk to how do we coach and lead and mentor people in relationships when they're watching these massaged brands?
Not only watching these massage brands, but you and I will get that feedback. People will look at our life in particular, in our marriage, and say, "Oh, that's couples goals," or look at the chambers and all of that stuff. And
they used to call us the Huxtables for us.
We've been called a lot of names.
Church people.
Church
people and the Huxtables.
The Huxtables.
Those are the two I remember.
Yeah, and some other
Hillary. Remember Hillary?
Hillary.
That was what.
Yes. Also called Hillary.
Yeah.
Hillary Banks. Yeah.
Hillary Banks.
Hillary Banks. So all of the names and all of the personas, Lord. And I will take it. I want to take it to our relationship and then go out, because there's so many people that will look at somebody else's marriage or somebody else's relationship and say, that's what I aspire to. And there's some good parts to that, right? So there's some good things when you get to connect with people and have access to them and watch them over a period of years. I remember when you and I moved back to Los Angeles from the Bay Area in 2013, my dad said, "How you and Rufus doing?" We had been married a long time, and it was one of those for real. Yeah. Sensei. We call my dad Sensei. I'm gonna call my dad Sensei. Yes. So Sensei said, "How are you all doing?" No, really, really, really. How are you and Rufus doing? And my response to him at that time is like, marriage is tough, marriage is hard, but me and Rufus are doing great. At that time, my sister had been living with us for a number of years, and we had literally been sharing a wall in the home. Our bedroom was on this side of the wall, and my sister's
That's true.
bedroom was on the other side of the wall for about 2 or 3 years before we moved back to LA. And I told my dad, I said, you can't front for 2 or 3 years. I said, Jerry's been living on the other side of the wall
That's true.
for the last 3 years. And if it was something going on, you would have got a full report, because what my sister's called rewind. One thing about my sister, she gonna rewind the story. Okay, she gonna run it back. And so I say all that to say is that there's nothing wrong with looking at couples that you have a level of access to and being able to glean from them by having access to them in their private moments. You and I benefit from that, being around couples, and we have access to them and are able to learn from them. They're able to share their lives with us privately. They're able to give us access to their failures, to their successes. That's one thing. I think where the danger is for the people we don't have that level of access to, and we're looking at their curated, constructed personas that are put out there in the public. And sometimes what's put out there in the public doesn't match what's happening in privately. What we say privately is, can your life preach? Don't tell me about the things that you're doing. Can I follow you home? Can I live on the other side of the wall for 3 years? Can I, be able to just pull up on you in your private moments, in your high moments, and in your low moments, and consistently see the thing that I see in the public arena. So that's the part where there's the gaps, and that's the part where I would advise people to have a level of caution. And it's not that you won't look at couples and look at people, and it's not that they're being disingenuous, because we just don't know, but you have to give that the grain of salt, or the filter that it needs to have, because you don't know people's private struggles. You don't know anything beyond this. The folks that are watching us now are watching us in a very curated format, in an edited format. We have dressed up to come and record this.
That's true.
We have prepared to come and do this. And the question is, is this the same people we're going to get privately?
That's true.
People that know us are able to say, yep, that can happen in the living room, and that can happen whether it's recording or not recording. But that's for people that know us. For people that are experiencing us maybe for the first time, or, just getting exposed to us through the podcast or other means, that's the part where it's like you have to just have the time and the exposure and be able to glean from people what's important, and then maybe what's not important, leave it on the table. And that's where I would kind of caution people in terms of how to consume what they might be consuming in the public spaces. No,
that's a good point. And I think and I know we've talked about this a little bit, but who really deserves to be a mentor or relationship goals? I think that is very, very important. And I think, because of social media being so robust, that some people are making the wrong decision in that. And I think that is something people need to kind of pause, especially those that do have to live out in front of people. We got to find somewhere to land the plane. But people that, regardless, even if you're not living behind in front of people, you need to determine with your significant other, hey, who can really be a mentor or a model? You know what I mean? And that's a whole conversation.
It really is.
To say, oh, is it the relationship that's never been tested? Is it the relationship that has went through so many trials and so many storms and they're still standing? Is it the relationship that ended? You know what I mean? It's like people really have to flush that out. And yeah, you can like all the pictures you want on social media,
Sure.
but don't let that eye candy deceive you. You know what I mean? And privately, Jamila and I, we've talked about that, where you feel like sometimes certain relationships are propped up in front of you and they just seem like a facade. They seem fake. They seem like an implant. They talk
Yes.
about the industry implant. Some relationships feel like like a front. Like, are they really married, or is this just convenient for the sake of business, for the sake of the brand, for the sake of ministry? You know what I mean? And sometimes we have to have wisdom and discernment to say, I don't think I just don't have peace about that being, our model, the makeup, the clothes, the hair, the
Yeah.
car, that doesn't need to be our model or mentor as it pertains to marriage, especially when it hasn't been tried, tested, it hasn't went through the fire, you know what I mean? So I think one of my takeaways,
Hmm.
from this conversation is that who can really be a model and a mentor to our relationship,
Yeah.
and I'll ask you the same question, like, what is your main takeaway from this this conversation that we just had?
Yeah. My main takeaway is that the storms are coming
Oh, yeah.
and that every relationship is going to go through not just one trial, not just one
Yeah.
tribulation,
Yeah.
but several
Yes.
over the
Yes.
course of
Yes.
years, several. I think about our own marriage and the things that we struggled with, year 1 through 5 versus the things that we struggled with five
Yeah.
through 15. Those were all different challenges, but they were challenges
Yeah.
nonetheless. They're challenges now. You talked about the people that can speak in our life. We've had the gambit. Every type of couple that you just described, we've had, because at different stages of our relationship and different stages of our marriage, we've had to tap into those people
Yeah.
in very different ways. But when they do come, I think what has been so helpful for us is just the word, not only covenant with one another, but covenant relationships. When we have had to go to the mat for our marriage, it wasn't one or two people we called. It wasn't, 20 people we called. It was like one or two.
Very short list.
Very short list. And having to say we are in trouble because we can't tell everybody everything that's going on to the
That's
level
true.
and the degree that is going on because of all of these voices and
That's
outside
true. That's
influences and
true.
all of these things. Like, we have to know that when it really really goes down, who we can rely on
That's true.
in challenging moments. And I
Absolutely.
think about couples that have had to, we've mentioned some of them that have had to publicly separate,
Hmm.
publicly, start new relationships and do all of those things. And for all of us, we have our own, sphere of influence where it feels public in our world
Yeah.
when things happen, and we have to go and talk to family members about what's going on in the marriage and tell our children what's going on, or talk to our loved ones and people that we trust. And so all of those things can be very, very difficult, but having those covenant relationships with people to help us navigate through that is a really, really big thing to have, and something that's essential, because the storms are going to come,
That's right.
the trials and tribulations are going to come. And the other thing that I would have to say that has been a bit of the secret sauce for us is that we have decided how we are going to communicate about our relationship to other people. We have been very, very clear from the beginning that it's okay to give feedback and all that stuff, but it was like we are the ones that have the full access and the
Yeah.
full disclosure, so to speak, when we are having tough times and challenges, parenting challenges, things in our relationship. It's like we rely on one another as our primary anchor and primary source. Because again, if I'm mad at you, when I stop being mad at you, my mama's still mad at you. My sister's still mad at you. My girlfriend's still mad at you. And so we have to be careful about, kind of spewing out in our anger and in our moments and when we dealing with stuff, because you know what? After a while, that brother you talking to gonna be like, look, bro, I'm tired of you coming to me, talking about what Jamila doing and she tripping. Why don't you just leave, bro? Because they get fatigued, right, with carrying all of that.
Yeah.
And so we just have to have good stewardship, because although we talked about some people that have very, very public relationships, all of us have our own version of a public relationship and have our own version of people that are on the outside that have really, really strong opinions for whatever reason about what goes on the inside.
Excellent, 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 excellent. So with that, we are going to wrap. Thank you once again for tuning in to this very special episode. Do us a favor, hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to whatever platform you are partaking this content on, and we will see you again on the next episode of With Love, The Chambers. Signing off.
This episode of With Love the Chambers is brought to you by the Vision Engineering Collective, where purpose meets precision. Whether you're launching a bold initiative, scaling your organization, or navigating complex projects, their team brings over 25 years of expertise in project management, strategic planning, and vision execution across sectors like tech, healthcare, education, and nonprofit. Ready to turn your vision into reality? Visit www.thevcollective.info to learn more.
That's a wrap for today's episode of With Love, The Chambers.
We hope you laughed, learned, and felt encouraged along the way.
If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who needs a little love and wisdom today.
You can also connect with us online on all social media platforms at Rufus Chambers Online and at Jamila Chambers. We'd love to hear from you.
Until next time,
keep living, keep laughing, and keep learning with Love, The Chambers.